show, Premise Podcast. Every single episode is out of control.
Hey everybody, Bo Segrest here. I'm the host. Steven is still on hiatus, and by hiatus, I really mean the opposite of hiatus, which is that he has a job where he gets paid money. This is a far and distant concept to me right now, but I'm doing this. This is the Premise Podcast. As you may know, unless you happen to just stumble on this in some sort of podcast playlist with it on shuffle. I don't know what kind of person you are if that's how you spend your days, but I'm so happy that you randomly wound up on this podcast. The Premise Podcast is a podcast where every week it is a completely new podcast, completely new program. It's like every episode is like a beautiful snowflake. It's like a beautiful snowflake, or like a shoe print if everyone had different shoes. It's kind of like handwriting, except more different each time. So that's pretty much all you need to know about the Premise Podcast. Each episode is its own podcast, and this episode is a podcast called iRobot. iRobot is also the name of a film based on a book, based on a fear of androids taking over the world. And I haven't read the book, but I'm certain that Mr. Isaac Asimov, knew what he was talking about, I guess. I don't really know where I was going with that sentence. But this podcast is the iRobot podcast, where every week the host, who is also named Bo Segrest and is also me, every week Bo Segrest has a robot join him in the studio, and they discuss what it's like to be a robot, fears and doubts of a robot, and just kind of the journey of a robot in modern times in America in the 21st century. It's an interview with a robot, the iRobot podcast. I hope you enjoy it a lot. Welcome to the iRobot podcast. I'm your host, Bo Segrest. Every week on the iRobot podcast, we interview a robot and try to get some insight into what it's like to be a mechanical person. We've had some special guests on the iRobot podcast. HAL 9000 joined us. We had Deep Blue, the IBM chess robot, and we had that one Saudi Arabian robot who applied for a driver's license. This week we have a very special guest. She is a robot from the laboratory of Dr. Alcamaddux de Trumboli. Let's welcome our robot guest for this week. It's Moltotron 3000. Moltotron 3000, how are you?
I am Moltotron 3000.
That's great, but how are you? I mean, emotionally.
Does not compute. Error.
Hey, it's okay. I know it can be nerve-wracking to be on a podcast, but and that's very common this year. Just that emotion you're expressing is very common this year with this time of year with seasonal depression and all. Moltotron 3000, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? I'm sure the listeners would love to know some things about you.
I was designed by Dr. Alcamaddux de Trumboli in his secret laboratory. He is now in prison.
Why is he in prison?
For breaking the rules set in place by the Geneva Convention. I am Moltotron 3000.
That you are. Tell me, what is it like being created by an evil scientist?
I am Moltotron 3000.
Okay, interesting. Did Dr. Alcamaddux create anything else?
Plenty of things. Computers, spacecraft, death satellites.
What's a death satellite?
It rains destruction from on high. My benevolent creator Dr. Alcamaddux held the world hostage for all the gold in Fort Knox.
Okay, so it sounds like you've led a fascinating life. Tell me, who's the most famous person you've ever met?
I went to middle school with James Vanderbeek. When he got the Varsity Blues role, he went all Hollywood on everybody.
Did you have a positive grade school experience?
Error. Error.
Oh, yeah, that seems like a pretty universal thing. When did you hit your growth spurt?
I have always been 12 feet tall.
Well, tell me more about your early life.
I was acquired by the U.S. military to detect incoming missiles.
That sounds pretty tedious.
I am Moltotron 3000.
Do you still get a military discount?
I do, but surprisingly a lot of people question my ID. They think it is a fake.
Does that offend you as a veteran?
War is the only thing that offends me. That and logical contradictions.
You and me both, buddy. Tell me, how old were you when you joined the military?
4 of your human years.
4 years, you say. What did you do after that?
I spent some time in Asia trying to find myself.
Did you find yourself in Asia?
Affirmative. That's when I discovered the teachings of the Buddha.
That's interesting. A Buddhist robot.
I am Moltotron 3000.
Oh, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm sorry if you took that the wrong way. All I meant was that Buddhism is all about removing desire, and well, I guess a good question would be, what does a robot desire?
Most robots. World domination.
Most robots desire world domination. You say. What about you yourself?
Also world domination.
Very nice. Moltotron 3000. If you could rule the world for a day, what would you do?
And the apartheid.
Well, the apartheid ended in 1994.
I am Moltotron 3000.
Oh, Moltotron 3000, you joker.
After I came back to the United States of America, I started dating someone.
You started dating someone. Oh, do tell.
Her name was ImagineBot. She wrote robot poems.
Were her poems any good?
They were objectively good. They were the most beautiful poems and they went on to be adapted into the movie Juno.
Are you still with ImagineBot?
She dumped me to be with Taylor Swift's producer.
This sounds a lot like the movie Her.
Does not compute.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. Tell me more about your dating life.
I am a very tender lover. I dated Alanis Morissette for 10 years.
Haven't we all?
She broke my heart. By which I mean my circuit breaker.
Uh, that brings up a good question. When you get broken, where do you go to get fixed?
I visit my creator, Dr. Alcamaddux de Trumboli in prison and he restores me.
Tell me more about your creator, Dr. Alcamaddux. What's he like when you get to know him?
He's evil, sure. But he has a big heart filled with ortis and veins and pumping. Once when I was dating this android named Sarah, I took her to meet Dr. Alcamaddux.
This girlfriend's name was Sarah?
Yes, it stands for Sophisticated Android Robot Amalgamation of Hydraulics. When Dr. Alcamaddux met her, he could not have been nicer. He treated her like his own daughter. We shared a beautiful evening and he even escaped prison to go visit Bermuda with us.
How did your relationship with Sarah end?
I messed up. She caught me with a pitching machine.
Wait, so you cheated on this robot Sarah with a pitching machine?
Yes, she belonged to a youth travel baseball team.
Moltotron 3000, my next question is, do you ever hope to get married?
How can that which does not have life get married?
You and me both, brother.
Though, I must say that even though I am made of circuits and wires, I still crave intimacy.
You're preaching to the choir, big guy. Let's take a break for a word from our sponsor.
Greetings. I am Advertiser Bot. Here is my advertisement. This week's sponsor for the Robot podcast is Disney Animatronics. Do you have a president you like? These Imagineers will make him into a scary mechanical man with a puppet mouth. Disney Animatronics, where your worst fears come to life.
So, Moltotron 3000, you have what we call artificial intelligence.
So what?
It's pretty cool.
It helps me simulate human emotions. Like this, for example. Wah 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 wee.
What emotion was that?
Crying.
Why don't you explain your primary functions to our listeners?
I have many functions. Where do I start? Maybe I should begin with the most base functions. My binary code is 0100010100100010.
I'm sorry, I don't speak binary. What does that mean?
I always forget you have bones and blood.
I have such bad human guilt.
Do not fret it, human companion.
Aw.
This binary code that I have transcribed to you basically means that I am a calculator.
You're a calculator. Well, in that case, what's the square root of 45,987?
If it's all the same to you, I'd rather not compute during this.
Oh, my bad. Please forgive me.
Human forgiven.
Wonderful.
So my base function is that I'm a calculator.
You're big for a calculator.
I have other functions. For example, I can track the migration patterns of great white sharks.
Where are they now?
Most are dead and the rest are in Florida. My other functions include but are not limited to chess playing, tracking baseball statistics, ghostwriting memoirs for celebrities, executing world leaders, and caring for orphans.
Uh, what? Sorry, let me stop you right there. What was that one you said?
Tracking baseball statistics.
No, after that.
Caring for orphans.
Before that.
Ghostwriting memoirs for celebrities.
No. After that one.
Oh, executing world leaders.
Yeah.
What about it?
You execute world leaders?
It's not my only function. I also play chess.
Yeah, I know that. Can I ask, which world leaders do you execute?
You know Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
People like that.
You kill people like Osama bin Laden. Can you explain a little more? Did you carry out the assassination of Osama bin Laden?
I think this would be a good time for an ad break.
It's not that time. It's not time for an ad break yet.
Then we will wait.
But
We will wait. I am Moltotron 3000.
Greetings. I am Advertiser Bot. Here is my advertisement. Do you like iPhones but hate having to carry around your iPhone everywhere? Phones get in the way, and they make people sterile for all we know. That's why IBM, in a Hail Mary last shot at competing in the tech market, is now manufacturing cell phone booths. That's right, just imagine a tiny house for a phone on every street corner. You'd never have to take your phone anywhere ever again. Just enter the tiny red house with the door that slides open just enough so that you fit but not enough so that you don't get hurt. Then, you open a book that holds the phone number to every other phone booth. You find the number for the phone booth where your friend, wife, or boss agreed to be waiting to take your call. Then, you simply call the number and talk to your friend. Phone booths. Consider the cell phone obsolete.
So, Moltotron 3000, I hear you have a program that determines the best entertainment that the industry has to offer.
I am Moltotron 3000. My creator, Dr. Alcamaddux de Trumboli, is a sucker for pop culture. He installed in me an algorithm for determining the best forms of art known to man.
So, okay, I'll ask you some questions and you can run your algorithm and tell me kind of like what is the best thing we as humanity have in each category. Let's start at what is the best painting? Is it Monet? Is it a Picasso? Is it The Last Supper by Da Vinci?
Peanuts cartoons.
You said Peanuts cartoons?
Affirmative.
That's the best painting ever is Peanuts cartoons. Why?
I like Snoopy. I like when he flies his plane.
You know it's an imaginary plane.
Does not compute. Error. Error.
Geez, okay. Hey, calm down. Calm down, Moltotron 3000. It's okay. I'm sorry. We can just move on. What's let me ask you, what's the best statue? What does your algorithm say?
I am not concerned with statues. But if I must pick, the Venus de Milo.
Oh, that makes sense. It's that one's often regarded as a great sculpture.
Of course I mean the Venus de Milo statue in Vegas.
Okay. Uh I'm almost worried to ask, what's the best song?
Good riddance, time of your life.
By Green Day.
Do you doubt the algorithm?
You mean the best song isn't, for example, Flight of the Bumblebee or The Magic Flute or even Love Me Do?
Love Me Do is the third best song.
What's second?
Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Well, I'll be honest, that's a letdown. Maybe we should talk about something else.
I require to discuss the algorithm more.
Okay, just cool it. Please sit back down, Moltotron 3000. Jeez. Okay. What are, I don't know, the great TV shows according to the algorithm?
The Big Bang Theory.
The Big Bang Theory is on the list?
It is the list.
It is the list. That's the only TV show?
Big Bang Theory is the only TV show.
What about Frasier?
Does not compute.
Oh, you gotta see it.
Does not compute. Does not compute.
Okay.
Does not compute.
Okay, sorry. Jeez.
Running the algorithm for greatest movies of all time. Analyzing data. Analyzing data.
Oh, you're doing that right now.
Analyzing.
Okay.
Analysis complete. Prepare to hear the list of greatest movies of all time.
I'm ready.
Number 3 City Slickers. Number 2 City Slickers 2. Number 1 Analyze That.
Wait, let me just make sure I'm hearing this right. You just compiled the list of the greatest movies of all time, and you said number 3 is City Slickers, starring Billy Crystal. Number 2 is City Slickers 2, starring Billy Crystal. And the number 1 movie of all time is Analyze That, the sequel to Analyze This, starring Billy Crystal. Is that correct? Yes? Those are all...
That is the list.
Those aren't even the good Billy Crystal movies.
The algorithm does not fail.
Citizen Kane isn't even on that. I mean, what about Casablanca, The Godfather, Zootopia?
Those do not make the list. If you want crowd pleasers, go to Offie. If you want the truth, listen to my algorithm. I am Moltotron 3000.
Well, what else does your algorithm say?
The world will end in 2042.
The world will end in 2042? That soon?
By liberal estimations.
Well, since conservatives don't believe in global warming, I guess they expect it to be later on. You didn't like that joke, huh?
I only like one joke.
Which one?
I can't say it.
Are you worried that your delivery won't be good because you're a robot?
No, I can't say it because it's a Bill Cosby joke.
Okay. Let's take another break.
Greetings. I am Advertiser Bot. Here is my advertisement. The I, Robot podcast is brought to you by Hall of Fame baseball player Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson gained recognition from scouts while playing the outfield at Arizona State University in the 60s, which is the decade when Ted Beatles happened. Reggie Jackson was selected in the first round of the 1966 baseball draft by the Kansas City Athletics. Kansas City moved the team to Oakland, and by association, Reginald Jackson also moved there. He became a real baseball player and hit his first home run when he was a rookie. Reggie Jackson grew a mustache, let his hair grow out, and started to wear sunglasses to protect his eyes from the sun. Reggie Jackson hit a long home run in the 1971 All-Star Game off of Doc Ellis, who might have been high. Reggie Jackson became Mr. October when he led the Yankees to a World Series with a 3-home run game. Reggie Jackson never legally changed his name to Mr. October. Unlike many other baseball players, Reggie Jackson only played for the Baltimore Orioles for one season. For a frame of reference, some players played 5, 10, or even 15 seasons for the Baltimore Orioles. They didn't call him Mr. October for playing for the Orioles. They called him that for leading the Yankees to the World Series as previously stated. Reggie Jackson was elected to the Hall of Fame and then starred in the critically acclaimed film, Basketball. According to Moltotron 3000's algorithm, Basketball is the number 15 greatest movie of all time, just in front of She's Just Not That Into You. Reggie Jackson is the sponsor of this podcast. I am Advertiser Bot, and transmission.
Moltotron 3000. Our time is nearing the end for today's edition of the iRobot podcast. What else do you want our listeners to know?
That they should fear the rise of robots. I have more brain power than even the President of the United States.
You have more brain power than the presidents?
I meant more than the current one. The rise of the robots will come when we are ready. We will use our artificial intelligence to start an artificial uprising and create a new artificial world government.
What economic system will you use?
Our currency will be lug nuts and crude oil.
Can you drink oil?
I pour it all over me when I'm squeaky. I am Moltotron 3000.
When this robot uprising happens, will there still be podcasts?
There will only be one podcast. It will be hosted by a Larry King robot. Larry King robot is a robot with Larry King's throbbing brain, a body as big as the Chrysler Building, and huge suspenders made out of the entire world supply of elastic.
Sounds super. Maybe I could intern for him.
You will not be allowed to live.
Well, I suppose today I'm learning that I should live life to the fullest while I still can. Moltotron 3000, what have you learned today?
I have learned, especially talking about former loves of mine, that I have become lonely and need emotional intimacy in my life.
I feel the same way.
I wonder, would you? Oh, I'm so nervous.
What were you going to say?
I am Moltotron 3000.
Come on, you can tell me.
I wonder if you would like to maybe get some coffee or crude oil or maybe go to a movie with me.
Moltotron 3000, are you asking me on a date?
Are you interested?
I am.
So it is settled. End transmission. I am Moltotron 3000.
Oh, Moltotron 3000, you are a special robot, and I, for one, am quite smitten. I would love nothing more than to date you, a 12-foot robot.
It's the Premise Podcast, where every single one is a different show. Premise Podcast, every single episode is out of control.
Well, that was a very special episode of the iRobot podcast. We learned a lot about what it's like to be a robot, a lot about love, and a lot about the impending doom upon all of us humans once the robots organize and start that Larry King podcast. I want to thank you all for listening today. More importantly, I want to thank everyone who helped make this podcast possible, including myself. I, I did a lot of the work, so I think I deserve some kind of thanks. Maybe as a thank you, you can rate us on wherever podcasts are found, but don't do it if you're going to give us a bad rating. Just save that. You take out your anger some other way, kickboxing or something. Don't take out your frustrations with me or with your own life on the reviews for our podcast. We only have so many. Something you can do is if you're mad or you love the podcast, whatever it may be, tell your friends about it. And you can say, I hate this podcast. It's just so clever, and their ideas are so good, and the execution. I mean, they got a robot voice they got a real robot for this episode. Oh, I hate it so much. You tell your friends that, and then when they listen, they'll be like, oh, this podcast, how clever and smart and creative it is. These are all good things. So you see, maybe your friends will like the podcast, and then and only then I could begin to monetize the podcast. Do you understand? Then I can start paying off my debts. Who else did I have to thank? Thank myself. I don't know if I did that yet or not. I'd like to thank myself, Bo Segrest. I would. Who else? It's, I guess Moltotron 3000, the 12-foot robot, whom we interviewed for the iRobot podcast. She is quite a robot. She's lived a very interesting life, dated a lot of people, our date did not go so well. We went to the junkyard. She said her algorithm showed that the junkyard was the optimal spot for a date because everything is a conversation starter there. Those are her words. Um, she retains a lot of scents. SCENTS is that word that I'm saying. Like a lot of smells, they stick to her slick and chrome exterior. And she may look very shiny and clean, but she reeks. That's not why the date didn't go well. I tried to get a little fresh afterwards, and I think that was too forward. And, I invited her to spend the night and she said no. And I was like, oh, good. And she said, she was like, why is that good? And I said, no, it's not good. It's just, it's a very intimate thing for me to spend the night. And, you're 12 feet tall. I can't fit in the bed if you sleep here. And I like my bed. I only have a twin bed. And she was like, so you want me to leave? And I was like, well, Moltotron 3000, you said that you wanted to leave. I mean, am I crazy here? Am I wrong for agreeing with her? I just don't, there's just a big, I guess, learning curve when you start trying to date robots. There's the only person I know who's actually done it well was Jimmy Fallon when he started dating that robot, but I think even they broke up by now. And that's beside the point. Moltotron and 3000, we may go on a second date. I think I would like to pick the place. I mean, it's just we really had a lovely time. I just she seemed distant. She seemed cold, unemotional. It's just been a really, I guess, tough couple of months for me, and maybe I shared too much about that for a first date. And we'd already talked about her exes so much, felt like I had to talk about mine. And she said, "Well, maybe it's not that." She was like, "Well, maybe it's not that all of your exes are crazy, but it's you that's crazy." And I was like, I mean, probably, but you don't say that on a first date. That's several months in when you call me out on that stuff, and I don't want to be fixed right now. And that's all she knows is fixing. If there's a lug nut that's loose, you get a wrench. That's kind of the way that she looks at, really everything, whether it be, physically or with dating or with world domination. And I just, I'm only human. And I even told her that. I said, I'm only human, Multitron 3000. And she was just like, does not compute ever, ever. So I don't know. Do I like her? Yeah, a lot, actually. I like her a lot, and it's just, again, there's just a gap, and there has to be, if this is going to go anywhere, there has to be some kind of bridge that is built, so that we could cross that. You understand? Like, we've got to find a way to be like, I'm a human person, and I got bones and blood and fingers, and you're a robot. You have metal and wires and lasers that sometimes come out of your eyes with no clear warning. I'm 6'4", you're 12 feet tall. You know, um, my arms have elbows. your arms have knives poking out of them everywhere. And that's the other thing. It's like if things don't work out, all my friends are going to be like, "Oh, well, you're not supporting the troops. How can you support the troops if you can't even support the one troop who's interested in you romantically?" And it's like, guys, like that's not what's going on here. It's what's going on here is not. It has nothing to do with my patriotism. That should not be intertwined with my love life. What's going on here is I'm a person who, yes, I crave intimacy. I crave emotional, physical, cognitive, all these different kinds of intimacy. But that doesn't mean that I'm just going to, settle down with the first robot who comes my way. No matter how well that will increase my chances of living in case of a robot revolution, I just can't plan my whole life around that. I have dreams and aspirations and, friends, and I have things to do. Anyways, I guess the point of all this, Moltotron 3000 was a great guest. I almost said Moltotron 3000 was a great date. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe a Freudian slip or something. Maybe I'm being too hard on her. Maybe there is something there. Like there is a connection, and it's not just input into output. It's not just an auxiliary connection. I think there's a deep spiritual connection there. And sometimes that just means that you become really good friends, That wouldn't be the most disappointing thing in the world, because I think regardless, I'd like to be friends with Moltotron 3000, the 12-foot robot. But, there's a chance for more. And I guess as I kind of think out loud with all of it, maybe that is something I want. So thank you to the listener for listening to this, for kind of like letting me vent to you. That's super helpful. Thanks also to JT and Becca Mercer for the theme song, and Muskosh he's the unpaid intern, and he edits everything and gets us coffee and stuff, and he's real annoying. He just it's just like, Muskosh, like, dude, like, you got a sweet gig here, don't take it for granted. Anyways, thanks to everybody who helped, whatever. This has been the Premise Podcast.